First in HD. This is News 4 Tucson, live at 6.
We begin this evening with the latest on a big developing story in Midtown. Police are investigating alleged child abuse, including claims of neglect and imprisonment. We have live team coverage tonight, which we begin with my colleague Christy Tedesco live at the scene right now. Christy.
Tom, I talked to a detective years ago, and he said at any given time in Tucson, there are probably 50 children in this situation in Tucson that we don't even know about. And today we got word of one home just behind me where 3 little girls, according to Tucson police, were kept away from the public and partially away from each other for up to 2 years, not allowed to bathe for months. And it happened at 4 o'clock in the morning. Frantically, a doorbell was ringing, and News 4 Tucson's Lupita Murillo was here. She spoke with that neighbor who answered the door for those little girls very early in the morning today. You're going to hear from that neighbor in just a moment, but first we want to find out what exactly Tucson police know and what they can tell us at this time. We have News 4 Tucson's Rebecca Taylor at TPD headquarters, where a news conference was held at about 5 o'clock tonight. Rebecca.
Christy, 3 girls tell police that they were held captive in their own home for 2 years. And on top of that, the girls say that they were isolated from each other. The 12 and 13-year-old were in one room and a 17-year-old in another. Police described their appearance as malnourished and dirty, not having a bath in 4 to 6 months. After 2 years of imprisonment, freedom came when the 2 younger girls ran to a neighbor's home who called 911.
Alleging that their stepfather had kicked in their bedroom door and was attempting to assault them with a knife. During the course of that investigation, it was alleged by the girls that they had been imprisoned within their bedrooms for approximately the last 2 years.
And police arrived at that home at 4 o'clock this morning. The parents were detained for questioning. No word yet on the charges they might face. At that press conference, police would not take any additional reporter questions. Live from TPD, I'm Rebecca Taylor. Christy, back to you.
All right, Rebecca, thanks. And just imagine being that woman. You're in your bed, probably sleeping very heavily. At 4 o'clock in the morning, frantically, your doorbell is ringing. You look out, and there's 2 little girls there. And the story that they tell is absolutely amazing. I want to bring in my colleague, Lupita Murillo. You've been in this neighborhood all day. You were the first on the scene, the first to speak to this woman. What did she tell you?
She was just in shock that this was going on right next door. And as you mentioned earlier, all this happened at the house behind us. And that's a house where police officers tell me something horrible happened to 3 little girls.
Tucson Police Department says they answered a call for service at 4 o'clock this morning on an unrelated matter. When they got here, they found children who were abused, neglected, and imprisoned. Neighbors say they had no idea of what was going on. The evidence truck pulled in, and it was being loaded with all sorts of items from the house. Neighbors were in disbelief.
Frantically and heard somebody knocking on our window, so we got out of bed and answered the door, and there were these 2 young girls, and they were pretty distraught, really hysterical, and she said it was something like, there's a, I don't know what she referred to, the man as her stepdad or what, but she just said, there's a man, a door breaking down, he got a knife, and very hysterical. So I said, well, come in. So they came in the house, and I said, I'm calling 911. And then I called 911, and then they talked to the dispatcher.
The woman was telling me that, again, she's in disbelief that all this was happening. She said she never saw children next door. She never heard them. And when she asked them, where have you been? They said, we've been there. We weren't allowed to speak. We weren't allowed to do anything. The neighbors around here also in total disbelief that this happened, and their hearts and prayers go out to these little girls. And as I mentioned to the neighbor, I said, you were their angel, and you helped them escape.
And I'm sure she's feeling so grateful that she could be there to help them. Just imagining what those poor little girls, thank you, Lupita, have been going through. It's you know, it's just horrifying to think. But now they're safe in custody, and the parents are being questioned. This brings to mind the fact that there was just revealed in Phoenix that about 6,000 hotline calls to CPS. These are calls that are made by people like you and me who suspect that there might be child abuse. They call the hotline and they say, we need you to check this out. We're worried about a kiddo. And what they do is they classify these cases, and apparently there were about 6,000 cases that are calls that came in that were classified as non-investigative when they should have been investigated, given to case managers and that sort of thing. So it's an error at the hotline. At this point, with this particular case, given the fact that neighbors didn't even know these girls were here, it's you know, who knows if there was even a call for these children to the hotline, but we certainly will be asking that question. We have asked that question, and we'll let you know if we find anything out. By the way, the governor is asking that those calls be looked into and investigated if necessary by the end of January. So they're aggressively dealing with that up in Phoenix. But for now, Tom, back to you.
All right, Christy, a story that's as heartbreaking as it is horrific, and we will, of course, have more on developments tonight at 10 o'clock. We have some other stories to tell you about tonight, including UAMC operating rooms that are